The internet is losing its mind tonight. Screens are lighting up, fans are arguing, and at the center of it all stands Mendeecees' Harris husband, father, reality TV icon caught in a storm he never saw coming. It started with one cryptic post, a single sentence on social media from his own son that read, "Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's still the truth." No names, no details. But within minutes, the internet had already decided who it was about. Speculation spread faster than wildfire, dragging up old rumors, whispered stories, and half-forgotten feuds that everyone thought were buried for good. Then came the photos. Blurry, late-night snapshots that seemed to show Mendeecees in the company of a woman no one recognized, someone younger, someone familiar in a way that made fans uneasy. The images hit gossip pages before sunrise, and by morning, every major entertainment blog had a headline asking the same thing. Was Mendeecees hiding a secret affair? At first, silence. No comment from Mendeecees. No denial. Just stillness while the noise around him grew louder. And then, just when it seemed like the chaos might settle, his son, yes, the same one who made the cryptic post, went live on Instagram. What he said next shook everything. With a shaky voice and visible frustration, he claimed there had been tension in the family for months. He spoke of secrets in plain sight, of conversations that never happened, and most damningly, of a betrayal that everyone kept pretending wasn't real. Within hours, Mendeecees broke his silence. Not through a statement, not through a PR team, but through a raw, unfiltered video from what looked like his own living room. He spoke slowly at first, eyes heavy, words deliberate. "I never wanted it to come to this," he began. "But since my own blood put this out there, I guess I have to speak my truth too." That single sentence flipped the internet upside down. Fans were stunned. Some defended him, saying family disputes should stay private. Others accused him of manipulation, of hiding something darker. The Harris family, once seen as strong and united through years of public ups and downs, suddenly looked fractured beyond repair. And yet, no one really knew what had happened until now. Tonight, we dig into the story that has everyone talking. The accusations, the heartbreak, the unexpected confessions, and the shocking twist that made even longtime followers question everything they thought they knew about this family. What really happened behind closed doors? Why did Mendeecees' son feel the need to expose him publicly? And what truth did Mendeecees claim to be hiding all this time? Stay tuned, because the next 10 minutes will change the way you see the Harris family forever. When Mendeecees hit record that night, you could feel the tension through the screen. The lights were low, his voice was heavy, and behind him, the house looked too quiet. He stared at the camera for a long moment before speaking, like he was deciding how much of the truth to tell. Then he said it. "I raised my son to be honest," he began, his tone flat, "but I didn't raise him to lie on me." The comment section exploded instantly. Fans typed in disbelief, calling out the family's name like it was a public trial. Mendeecees rubbed his temples, clearly fighting back frustration. "Everybody wants to know about this so-called affair," he said, "so let's talk about it." He paused again, and you could hear a faint noise off camera, maybe a door, maybe someone else in the house. "There's a lot people don't know," he continued. "There's pain in this family that goes way back. Things I tried to protect my kids from. Things I took the blame for so they could stay innocent." His eyes glistened, but he didn't cry. "And now, my own child is out here making me look like a monster." The internet lost control. Within an hour, clips of the video were everywhere. Fans divided into camps, half defending Mendeecees, half siding with his son. Even longtime followers of the family's reality show started pulling old footage, analyzing every scene, every look, every argument for signs of tension. Twitter threads grew longer by the minute. People claiming they always felt something off between Mendeecees and his oldest boy. But what no one expected was the next move. Not from Mendeecees, not from his wife Yandy, but from the woman in the photos, the one who had been spotted with him weeks before. Her name started circulating fast. Sierra. She was tagged, reposted, and dragged into the chaos before she could even log out of her own page. And then, without warning, she went live. The video started shaky, her voice trembling. "I didn't want to speak," she said, tears already welling in her eyes. "But I can't sit here and be called names that aren't true." Thousands of viewers flooded the live. She wiped her face and whispered, "I wasn't having an affair with Mendeecees." The comments went wild. "Then what were those pictures?" Someone asked. "Why were you together?" She took a breath, steadying herself. "He was helping me," she said. "My brother was in trouble." Mendeecees was the only person who stepped up. Still, not everyone believed her. Blogs twisted her words, suggesting a secret connection that started years ago. Old photos resurfaced, showing her at family events, in the background of group pictures. People started claiming she'd been close to the family for longer than anyone realized, and by morning, new rumors emerged that she wasn't just a family friend, but someone Yandi once trusted. As the noise built, Mendeecees' son Lil Mendy posted again. This time, no cryptic messages, just a long caption under a black screen. "It's funny how people always say family first until the truth comes out," he wrote. "I saw what I saw. Nobody can tell me it didn't happen." That was enough to set everything off again. Yandi finally stepped in. She posted a story, not a statement, just a quote. "When lies start to sound like the truth, stay quiet. God works louder." It didn't calm anyone down. If anything, it made things worse. Fans began taking sides within the family itself, some calling Yandi a peacemaker, others accusing her of covering something up. Meanwhile, the networks that once aired their lives on television reached out behind the scenes. Producers smelled a comeback. One insider even leaked a message, claiming there were talks of a family sit-down episode to address everything on camera. But before any deal could be made, Mendeecees' mother entered the picture. Her name carried weight in the family's story. She'd been the one who raised him through hardship, stood by him during his past legal battles, and always preached unity. When she went live that night, fans knew things were serious. "Y'all gotta stop tearing this family apart," she said firmly. "Whatever's going on, it's not for the internet. That's blood. That's father and son." She turned her head slightly, her voice softening. "And no, my son ain't perfect, but he don't deserve this." Her words added fuel to both fires. Supporters saw it as proof that Mendeecees was innocent, while critics claimed she was protecting him like always. The comments were relentless. "So the mom admits something's off." One viewer wrote, "If it was all lies, why even address it?" As the day turned into night, more voices joined in. Friends from the industry, old castmates, even a few enemies spoke up. One anonymous source told a gossip outlet, "This isn't new. There's been tension between them for years. That boy's been holding on to something, and now it's out." The next morning, Mendeecees appeared again, this time outside, standing in front of a car, phone in hand, hoodie pulled low. "You ever get tired of people thinking they know your life?" he said quietly. "You ever have your own child throw stones at you?" He shook his head. "I don't care about the blogs. I care about fixing what's broken." Then he said something that made everyone stop scrolling. "Maybe I wasn't the father he needed me to be. Maybe I hurt him without realizing it. But I didn't cheat. I didn't betray my family." For a brief moment, people began to soften. The comment section filled with support until a new video surfaced from Lil Mendy himself. In it, he sat in a dark room, hoodie up, eyes red. "He can say whatever he wants," he muttered. "But I know what I saw." The clip was short but powerful. "She came to the house," he said, "late at night. Mom wasn't there. I heard them talking, laughing. I didn't say anything then, but I remember." He swallowed hard. "And then when I asked him about it later, he said I was too young to understand. I'm not a kid anymore." That single video reignited everything. Suddenly, the story wasn't about rumors or blurry photos, it was about trust, memory, and pain. Fans debated endlessly. Was it misunderstanding or manipulation? Was Lil Mendy telling the truth, or twisting an old story into something else? While the world argued, Yandi went silent. No posts, no lives, nothing. The silence only made it worse. Paparazzi started circling, trying to catch her outside, but she stayed hidden. Insiders claimed she'd left town for a few days to clear her mind. Others said she was furious, not just at the public chaos, but at the private betrayal, because, if the story was true, it meant her husband had kept secrets from her too. By midweek, a new layer emerged. An anonymous email leaked to a gossip blogger claimed to include old text messages between Mendeecees and Sierra. They weren't explicit, but they hinted at a closeness that didn't sound like a simple favor. "You always know how to calm me down," one message read. Another said, "Don't tell Yandi, she misunderstand." The blogger posted screenshots with the caption, "Make your own judgment." The internet didn't hesitate. Hashtags spread, hashtag #TeamIandy, hashtag Justice for Mendy, hashtag truth or sympathy. People started tagging the family in every post, demanding someone tell the full story. Back at home, things were falling apart. Insiders whispered that Mendeecees had moved into a guest house temporarily, giving Yandi space. Lil Mendy was reportedly staying with a relative, refusing to answer calls. And through it all, cameras began showing up again, invited, but relentless. Every car ride, every store visit, Every tense glance was caught and replayed. Then, one evening, a clip surfaced that no one expected. It showed Yandi at a friend's dinner, visibly emotional, saying, "I just don't know who to believe anymore." She didn't mention names, but the timing was clear. The video went viral within hours. People commented things like she knows something and you can't fake that kind of pain. Meanwhile, Mendeecees' next live video opened differently. No intro, no apologies, just him sitting in silence for almost a full minute. Then he looked into the camera and said, "If this is what it takes to make him feel heard, fine. I'll take the hit." He leaned forward. But one day, he'll realize who was protecting who. Those words echoed across the internet. Some said it was manipulation, others said it was a confession in disguise. But everyone agreed it wasn't over. What fans didn't see yet was that something deeper was unraveling behind the scenes. Text messages weren't the whole story. There were deleted calls, hidden recordings, and one voicemail that would soon flip everything upside down. And just as the dust seemed to settle, that voicemail leaked. It was short, grainy, but unmistakable. Mendeecees' voice, saying softly, "I miss how things used to be. We can't let them find out." The clip ended before context could explain it, but that didn't matter. It was enough to shatter what little faith was left. Within minutes, fans screamed betrayal, demanding answers. Bloggers reposted the audio, labeling it proof. Yandi's silence turned into heartbreak, her followers flooding her page with messages of support and disbelief. And that's when things truly began to spiral, because for the first time, Mendeecees didn't deny it. When Marcus finally stopped denying and the voicemail circled the internet like a storm with no eye, everything went quiet inside his house. The sound of cabinets shutting, the hum of the fridge. Even the ice maker seemed to hesitate, like the walls were listening for the next mistake. Outside, neighbors slowed their cars to stare at the driveway. A couple pretended to jog past twice. Marcus stood in the kitchen with his phone face down, the screen buzzing like a heartbeat he refused to check. He put both hands on the counter and whispered to himself, "What are you doing, man?" But there was no answer that could fix a message that said, "I miss how things used to be. We can't let them find out." His son Jordan wasn't home. No text, no call. Only that post from the night before where he wrote, "I know what I heard." Marcus closed his eyes, replaying it all. The night Selena showed up. The laugh he shouldn't have shared. The way he said goodnight at the door. Softer than he should have. He told himself it was compassion. An old friend in a bad situation. He told himself he was protecting everyone from misunderstandings. But the word protect had started to feel like a lie. You dress up in a suit. Yara was the one who shattered the silence. She came down the stairs with the careful steps of someone walking through glass. Her hair tied back, her face bare, a sweater too large for summer. She didn't look at Marcus. She reached for a glass, filled it with water, and stared at the faucet as the stream tapered off. Only then did she speak. "How long?" she asked, not turning around. He swallowed. "There's nothing to confess." She laughed once, small and cold. "I didn't ask what. I asked how long." He tried again. "There wasn't an affair." Her shoulders rose. "That's not an answer." The doorbell rang. Marcus flinched. Yara didn't. The sound was followed by a delicate tapping against the glass. A camera lens pressed where daylight should be. He walked to the front hall and peered through the shade. A pair of bloggers stood on the porch pretending to be concerned citizens. He backed away as the bell rang again. In the kitchen, Yara set the glass down so gently it barely made a sound. "Don't open it," she said. "They're not here for healing." When the knocking finally stopped, Marcus picked up the phone and scrolled to Jordan's name. The message thread showed blue confessionals and gray silences. He typed, "Call me," erased it, typed, "I love you," erased it, then typed nothing at all. The cursor blinked like an impatient drum. "He needs time," Yara said, as if reading his thoughts. "He needs his father to tell the truth." Marcus answered. She lifted her chin. "So tell it." And then came the ping. A notification from an account neither of them recognized that had already been reposted in 1,000 places. It was a clip from 3 years ago, a birthday dinner where everyone clapped and made toasts. A moment when Marcus leaned too close to Selena and whispered something into her ear while the cake sparks hissed. No audio, just the angle, just the proximity. The caption read, "What was so secret then?" The comments answered for them. "Affair vibes." One wrote, "I knew it." Another said, "This been going on." A third decided, "Strangers built a timeline in real time. Bricks of certainty set in mortar made of maybe." "Turn it off," Yara said, voice tight. Marcus turned the screen face down again and let it buzz on the marble. He finally looked at her, really looked. She wasn't shouting, she wasn't breaking plates or throwing rings in dramatic arcs. Her restraint was worse. "You always ask us to wait for your explanations," she said, eyes on him now. "We wait, and we wait, and we wait, and when you're ready, the explanation is a story where you were saving us from pain." She took the glass again, but didn't drink. "I can sit in pain by myself. I don't need your stories. I didn't sleep with her," Marcus said. The words tasted like old pennies. He believed them. He wanted her to. "But did you want to?" Yara asked, soft as a bruise. He hesitated. There it was. The pause that decides a marriage. He went for honesty, the kind that hurts but might still be holy. "I wanted to feel necessary," he said. "She made me feel like I was still the man who could fix things." The words curled like smoke between them. "So you were addicted to her need," Yara replied. "Not her," he said quickly, too quickly. "The feeling." She nodded once, slow. "Then you cheated with a feeling and used a woman as the alibi." The phone buzzed again. Harder this time, an incoming call. It was Jordan. Marcus fumbled to answer. "Hey," he said, too loud. There was a pause, then a breath. Then Jordan's voice, low and scraped raw. "I'm at Grandma's," he said. "Don't come over." Marcus sat down at the table as if the chair had moved under him. "I'm not coming unless you ask," he said. "I didn't ask you anything," Jordan replied. Silence swallowed them. "I didn't cheat," Marcus said. "I heard the voicemail," Jordan answered. "I know how people talk when they're hiding." "I wasn't hiding you," Marcus said. "I was trying to keep you out of a mess." "I live in your mess," Jordan said. "I've been living in it my whole life." On the other end, a voice murmured something near Jordan, muffled. Then a click, and Grandma Marlene came on. "Boy," she said to Marcus, the way only a mother can, each letter a consequence. "You better stop explaining and start apologizing." Marcus closed his eyes. "Yes, ma'am." "Not to me," she said. "To everyone you taught to trust you." The line clicked back to Jordan. "You want to talk?" Jordan said. "Go live. Tell them what you told me when I was 12, about how sometimes grown folks cross lines and don't know it till they look back." Marcus remembered the night clearly. A long car ride after a game. The windows down. The lesson about boundaries dressed as a parable. "You remember everything," Marcus whispered. "Someone has to," Jordan replied, and the call ended. Yara sat, finally taking the chair across from him. "I need you to hear me," she said. "I am not performing this marriage for an audience. If you want the cameras to see repentance, buy a mirror and install it in your heart." Marcus nodded. "Tell me what to do." "Don't ask me to choreograph your apology," she said. "Make it because you owe it, not because you think it will fix the comments." He stood, moved to the sink, and let water run over his hands like a ritual. Then he picked up the phone and opened the app everyone was waiting on. The red dot glowed like a dare. He tapped it. The screen counted down. 3, 2, 1. "I'm Marcus," he began, voice steady. "And I've been a coward with the truth." The chat filled instantly, hearts surging, words flying. He kept going. "I wanted to feel needed, and I let that want put cracks in my family. I didn't have an affair, but I crossed lines. I lied by omission. I protected my image instead of protecting trust. I'm sorry to my wife, to my son, and to anyone I taught to doubt their own eyes." He swallowed. "I take responsibility." The first wave of comments was disbelief. "Too late," one wrote. "Crocodile tears," another added. Some defended him. "Accountability matters," a small stream typed. "This is the first real thing he's said." In the middle of it, a notification popped up. Selena had joined the live. The chat erupted. "Add her," the crowd commanded. "Let her speak." Marcus hesitated, then tapped the invite. The screen split. Selena appeared in a quiet room with a lamp that looked too fragile for the moment. Her face was bare, her eyes ringed with the cost of sleepless nights. "Say what you came to say," Marcus told her. She nodded, swallowing a tremor. "We did not sleep together," she said, careful as a surgeon. "But I leaned on him for things I should have handled myself. I took comfort I didn't deserve to take." The chat flooded with fury and relief in equal measure. "Homewrecker," someone spat. "Thank you for telling the truth," someone else typed. Selena continued, "And I want to say to Yara, if she's watching, I am sorry for any pain I added. I was hurting, and I used availability as a drug. I won't be contacting your family again." Yara was watching. She didn't comment. She didn't join. She turned her phone face down and stared at the wall until the paint seemed to breathe. Upstairs, a drawer closed. A suitcase shifted on the closet shelf. She wasn't packing, not yet. She was measuring the weight of staying. Downstairs, Marcus ended the live with a final sentence. "I'm not asking for forgiveness." The screen went black. An hour later, someone leaked a thread of messages from a private group chat between old friends of the family. The kind of thread where people speak unvarnished because they think they're safe. In it, an old rival named Nico typed, "Marcus been out here acting like Mr. Family Values while building a fan club on the side." Another friend replied, "He likes being adored. It's like oxygen." Then a third message appeared from a contact saved only as G that twisted the knife. "Ask him about the night of the charity gala 2 summers ago." The thread exploded across social media, and the charity gala, once a memory of glitter and speeches, became a crime scene for armchair detectives. The footage surfaced within hours. Marcus on the balcony with a donor whose face the cameraman never fully captured. The two of them talking while the party roared below. Nothing scandalous happened on screen, but the angle suggested intimacy, and the internet didn't need more than a suggestion. They slowed the clip, zoomed the frames, added circles and arrows, narrated it like a sports replay. "This is a pattern," the commentators announced. "It's not about one woman, it's about attention." Marcus watched the video in silence. He felt a strange calm, a surrender that had nothing to do with quitting and everything to do with telling himself the first honest story he'd told in years. He sat at the kitchen table again, opened a notebook, and began to write. Not a statement, not a press release, a list. Every moment he could remember where he chose applause over intimacy, where he flirted with the idea of being the man everyone adored instead of the man one woman and one kid could count on at 2 a.m. The list grew into the nights and rolled into the morning. By sunrise, he knocked on the door to the guest room where he'd been sleeping. Yara opened it, hair tangled with exhaustion, a softness around her that didn't mean forgiveness, just humanity. He handed her the notebook. "I'm not asking you to read it," he said. "I'm asking you to see that I'm finally taking inventory." She looked at the cover. Blank. Unpretentious. And when the inventory's done, she asked, "Then what?" He exhaled. "Then I call a therapist and I go. Whether you come or not." She nodded. "That's a start." He almost smiled, but decided against it. Smiles were untrustworthy in mornings like this. His phone vibrated with a new message. "Grandma Marlene." It was a single sentence that felt like both a blessing and a test. "Come by at noon," it read. "Jordan has something to show you." The words rattled him. He typed back, "I'll be there," and looked at Yara. "He wants to see me." "No," she said, reading over his shoulder. "He wants to show you something." Noon came like a sounding bell. Marcus drove across town with his hands at 10 and 2. The radio off, the air set to a temperature that felt like penance. He parked in front of the small brick house that raised him and knocked on the door he once slammed as a teenager when the world felt unfair in simpler ways. Grandma Marlene opened it without a smile. "Inside," she said. The living room smelled like pine cleaner and early memories. Jordan sat on the couch with a laptop, eyes fixed on the screen. He didn't stand. Marcus took the chair across from him. "I'm here." Jordan didn't look up yet. He pressed play. A video filled the screen. It was a clip from a home camera positioned at the edge of the foyer. The angle that caught shoes and hugs and hellos. Date stamp. The night Selena stopped by. The footage showed her entering, damp from rain, coat clutched close. Marcus appeared, surprised, then concerned. They talked quietly, and although the audio was thin, it captured words at the edges. "He hit me," Selena said, a ghost of sound between static. "I can't go home." Marcus's face tore in two. "Sit," he said. "You're safe." He handed her tea. He called someone, voice tight. "Shelter hotline," he whispered into the phone. Then the camera caught the moment that ruined everything in the world's eye. He reached for her hand when she started to shake. It was the kind of gesture men get praised for in movies and punished for in real life. Jordan paused the video and finally looked at his father. "I found this when I was moving files," he said. "I tried to tell myself I was wrong about what I heard. I tried." Marcus stared at the frozen frame, his own hand a centimeter from disaster. "Why didn't you show this sooner?" he asked softly. Jordan set his jaw. "Because you taught me not to tell half-truths. And I didn't know if this was the other half or just another angle." Grandma Marlene stood by the door with her arms crossed, eyes wet. "Men don't just tell the truth," she said. "They live with it after it lands." Jordan pressed play again. The clip continued, showing Marcus stepping back, putting space between them, hanging up the phone when a shelter advocate assured him someone would come. The doorbell rang in the video, a volunteer arriving with a jacket and information. Selena left 15 minutes later with a whispered thank you, and the camera captured a final sentence no one had heard until now. Marcus, voice frayed, said, "I'm sorry you had to come here for help. I should have found you help sooner." The door closed. The house was quiet again. Jordan stopped the video and closed the laptop with a soft click. "I wanted to hate you," he said. "It was easier than not knowing." Marcus's breath shuddered. "I'm sorry I made you guess." Jordan nodded once, a small gift. "I'm not forgiving you," he said plainly. "I'm just telling you what I know now." Marcus leaned forward, elbows on knees, the posture of a man who no longer needs the crowd. "That's enough," he said, though it wasn't. Not yet. Grandma Marlene finally moved, placing a hand on Jordan's shoulder and another on Marcus's back. "Now take this truth and do something with it," she said. "And remember, the internet won't post this part, but you will live it." Jordan stood. Marcus stood. They didn't hug, they didn't stage a picture. They just breathed in the same room for the first time in days, without the cameras deciding the plot. Outside, a car crept by, a lens glinting in the noon sun. Inside, a family took one step off a cliff and discovered a ledge. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't absolution. It was a place to stand while they figured out what came next. And sometimes that is the bravest thing you can do when the world demands a climax. Marcus picked up the laptop. "I want to show this to Yara," he said. Jordan nodded. "She decide what it means." Marcus smiled, small and undeserved. "She always does." Jordan almost smiled back, but not yet. Not yet. And as the door opened to the same street that had judged them all week, Marcus felt the weight of 100 eyes and chose, for the first time, not to look back at them for permission. He stepped into the light, holding a truth that wasn't perfect, but it was whole, and the whisper that followed him from the living room to the car wasn't applause. It was a single word he hadn't heard in his own head in a long time. ENOUGH. This story is entirely fictional and has no connection to real people or events. After the truth came out, everyone thought the storm would calm. But storms don't end, they just change direction. Marcus walked out of his mother's house that afternoon carrying the laptop like it was proof of his humanity, but the internet had already decided the next chapter. While he was learning to breathe again, the world was busy writing him a new scandal. The video of him and Jordan went viral. Someone had clipped their argument, added sad music, and titled it Father and Son Confrontation of the Year. Millions watched it like it was entertainment, not heartbreak. Yara saw it while scrolling late at night, wrapped in a blanket, the blue light turning her face into a ghost. She read comments that called her strong, others that called her naive. She closed the phone and whispered, "They don't know a thing about forgiveness." The next morning, Selena reappeared online, not with an apology this time, but with a warning. She posted a short message that said, "People think they know everything, but they don't know what was kept off camera." That one line sent the world into chaos again. Fans started digging through old footage, old pictures, interviews, anything that might prove there was still more to uncover. And in the middle of it all, a new name appeared. The name was Raiden. He was a producer, someone who had worked with Marcus and Yara years ago during their reality show days. He hadn't been mentioned in years, but now he posted a thread claiming he had witnessed moments that didn't make the cut. He wrote, "If the world knew what happened behind those scenes, they'd understand why Jordan's angry." Within hours, his thread hit every gossip site. Marcus sat in his car reading it, his face blank. He called his lawyer, who told him to stay quiet, but silence felt like guilt, and guilt was louder than any confession. He turned the phone off, sat there with both hands gripping the wheel, and whispered, "They'll never let us move on." Inside the house, Yara was pacing. She had spent the whole morning trying to reach Jordan, but he wasn't answering. Finally, he texted, "I'm fine. I just need space." She exhaled shakily, then looked up at the staircase. Marcus was standing there, exhausted but calm. "We can't let this destroy us," he said. She didn't answer. "It already did," she finally replied. Later that evening, there was another leak. Someone sent a clip to a gossip page, grainy security footage from the studio where Marcus used to record his podcast. The video showed him arguing with Raiden, voices raised. No clear audio, just body language. Marcus pointing, Raiden shaking his head, then walking away while Marcus slammed a chair against the wall. Captions filled in the blanks. Marcus threatens producer after affair exposed. The internet didn't care that no one could hear the words. It looked like guilt, and that was enough. Yara saw it first. Her phone buzzed, and she stared at the headline until it blurred. Marcus walked in, saw her face, and knew. "It's not what it looks like," he said automatically. She laughed bitterly. "Do you hear yourself? It's always not what it looks like." He moved closer. "Raiden's lying. He's using this to get back at me." "For what?" she asked. He hesitated. "He used to like you," he said quietly. "He thought I stole you from him." Yara blinked. "That was 10 years ago." Marcus nodded. "And some people never get over being rejected." Yara turned away. "So now you're saying this whole thing is about jealousy?" Marcus sighed. "I'm saying not everyone wants the truth. Some people just want revenge." Outside, reporters gathered again. Flashlights flickered through the windows like lightning. Inside, the couple stood in silence while the house filled with the sound of their phones vibrating non-stop. It was like living inside an earthquake that never stopped shaking. Then, out of nowhere, Jordan went live. His voice was steady this time. "I know everyone's talking about my family," he said, "and I know people think they know what's real, but the truth is, I didn't post that video for fame. I did it because I was tired of lies." He paused, looked down, then said something that froze everyone watching. "But I saw the rest of the footage. I know now what really happened that night." Fans flooded the comments. "What did you see? Tell us. Spill the truth." He stared into the camera for a moment longer. "I'll tell my dad myself," he said, and ended the live. The internet went insane. Speculation exploded. What had Jordan found? What did he know that no one else did? Some said it was proof his father was innocent. Others swore it was worse than anyone imagined. Yara's phone lit up with messages from friends, producers, even strangers claiming to have insider info. She didn't reply to any of them. Instead, she walked to the backyard, where Marcus was sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. "He saw something," she said. Marcus looked up slowly. "What?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but he said he'd tell you himself." Marcus rubbed his face, the weight of every mistake pressing down at once. "Then I'll wait," he said. "No," Yara replied. "You won't. You'll go to him. Because if you wait, someone else will twist it before he gets the chance." The next morning, Marcus drove across town again. He knocked on his mother's door, same as before, but this time Jordan opened it. No anger, no sarcasm, just a strange calm. "Come in," he said. Marcus stepped inside, heart pounding. They sat down across from each other at the same table where everything had fallen apart. Jordan pulled out his phone, opened a file, and slid it across. "This is what they didn't show," he said. It was the uncut version of the studio footage. The argument between Marcus and Raiden. And this time, the audio was clear. "You're crossing a line," man Raiden's voice said on the recording. "You keep defending her like you're hiding something." Marcus replied, sharp and tired. "I'm defending a woman who was hurt. That's it. Stop twisting it." Raiden scoffed. "Come on. Nobody does that out of pure heart. You're not fooling me." Marcus slammed the chair. "Believe what you want, but don't drag my family through your garbage." The video ended. Silence filled the kitchen. Jordan looked at him and said, "So you weren't protecting her because you loved her? You were protecting her because you pitied her." Marcus nodded slowly. "I was trying to help someone who had no one else." Jordan looked down. "Then I turned that into a lie." Marcus shook his head. "You turned it into what it looked like. And I gave you reasons not to trust me." Grandma Marlene, who had been listening from the hallway, finally stepped in. "You both spent weeks fighting the wrong enemy," she said. "The enemy isn't the truth. It's the silence that keeps it from showing up sooner." Outside, the world still believed whatever it wanted to believe. But inside that house, for the first time, there was a crack of calm, not peace. Not yet, but the sound of something beginning to heal. And while the headlines shouted about betrayal, the real story was quieter. It was a father and son learning how to look each other in the eye again. But peace never lasts long when fame's involved. Because just as Marcus stood to leave, his phone buzzed. A new message. No name, just a number. It read, "You think it's over? Check your email." Marcus froze. The screen lit his face like a warning. Yara's name flashed next. She was calling. And when he answered, her voice shook. "Someone sent me something," she said. "And you're not going to like it." He closed his eyes, whispering, "What now?" And that's where the next storm began. This story is entirely fictional and has no connection to real people or events. The phone slipped from Marcus's hand before he even opened the email. The sound of it hitting the floor felt louder than thunder. Yara's voice was still on the line, sharp, scared, echoing through the speaker. "Open it," she said. "Right now." His pulse quickened. He picked the phone back up, unlocked it, and stared at the subject line. 3 words. "You should know." He hesitated. "What's in it?" he asked. "Just look." Yara said, her breath uneven. He tapped it open, and a single attachment loaded a video file. The thumbnail showed a dark parking lot, headlights glowing in the distance. His name was on it. "Someone's trying to destroy us," he whispered. Yara didn't respond. She hung up. The video began to play. Shaky footage, filmed from inside a car. Marcus in the frame, talking to a woman near his own vehicle. Her face wasn't clear, but the silhouette looked familiar. She reached for his arm, said something the microphone didn't catch. He pulled away, got into his car, and drove off. The clip ended there, but that was enough for the internet. By the next morning, the video had gone viral again. Captions screamed, "Marcus caught again. Mystery woman appears." Fans dissected every pixel, claiming to identify the shape of the woman's earrings, her jacket, even the way she walked. And within hours, someone claimed to have proof. Screenshots appeared online showing a name, Layla. She was an old friend of Yara's, someone from before the fame, before the chaos. Photos surfaced of her at their wedding, smiling in the background. The betrayal felt personal, and Yara's silence made it worse. Reporters began camping outside their gate. The world didn't want truth anymore, it wanted fire. Marcus called Yara a dozen times before she finally answered. "Don't," she said. "Just one word. Quiet and final. You have to believe me," he said, voice cracking. "I wasn't meeting her for anything wrong." "Then what?" she asked. "What were you doing in a parking lot at midnight?" "She needed help," he said. "I've heard that before," Yara replied, and the line went dead. Inside, Marcus felt the air tighten. The walls seemed to close in. He sat on the couch, scrolling through the chaos. People who once called him an inspiration, now called him a liar. Hashtags rose again. Memes spread faster than truth could breathe. That night, Jordan came home. His face was unreadable. Marcus stood up. "You saw it too?" he asked. Jordan nodded. "Everybody saw it. It's not what it looks like," Marcus said softly. Jordan gave a hollow laugh. "You need to retire that line. Then tell me what to say," Marcus said, frustrated. "How do I fix this?" "You don't," Jordan said. "You let it fall apart. Maybe that's the only way we all start over." Marcus stared at his son, searching for something: hope, forgiveness, understanding, but found only exhaustion. "You really think I deserve this?" he asked. Jordan shrugged. "I think you deserve to stop pretending." The next morning, the story took another turn. Layla finally broke her silence. She posted a video, her face pale, eyes swollen. "I didn't expect this," she began. "Marcus didn't do anything wrong. I called him because I was scared." She explained that she'd been followed after leaving an event, that Marcus had driven out to make sure she got home safe. "That's all it was," she said. "He didn't touch me. He didn't betray anyone." But even that confession couldn't stop the avalanche. Half the people believed her. The other half said she was covering for him. The world was split again. Two sides throwing stones made of opinions. In the middle of it, Yara packed a bag. She didn't say where she was going, only that she needed space. Marcus watched her walk out, not trying to stop her. "When you figure out how to stop rescuing everyone but your own family," she said at the door, "maybe we'll talk." Then she was gone. He stayed behind, surrounded by the noise of what used to be his life. Every sound in the house, the clock ticking, the hum of the refrigerator felt like judgment. He opened his phone, stared at the unread messages from friends, fans, reporters, and finally, one from an unknown number. It read, "She's not lying, but she's not telling everything either." He called the number. No answer. He texted back, "Who is this?" No reply. A few minutes later, a new message appeared. "Check the footage again. Look at the license plate behind her car." His chest tightened. He opened the video once more, froze the frame, zoomed in. A white sedan parked across from them. Blurry plate, but visible enough for 3 letters. R03. He sent the image to a friend who worked in security. Within an hour, he called back. "That plate's registered to Raiden." Marcus froze. "The producer?" "Yeah," the friend said. "The same one who leaked the studio footage." He hung up and sat there, stunned. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a setup. He stood, pacing, the realization hitting harder with every step. Raiden had filmed him, edited the clip, leaked it at the perfect time. The motive was clear: revenge, exposure, chaos. That night, he went live again. Not for sympathy this time, but for truth. "This ends tonight," he said, his voice low. "Someone's been using my family's pain for entertainment. They're twisting every story for views. And now I know who." The chat exploded. Names, guesses, accusations flooded the feed. Marcus didn't flinch. "I'm not here to blame," he said. "I'm here to protect what's left of my family." As the live continued, screenshots appeared in real-time emails, contracts, messages between Raiden and gossip outlets. Fans started connecting dots, realizing the leaks had been orchestrated, and within minutes, Raiden's name trended higher than Marcus's. The hunter had become the hunted. Back in her hotel room, Yara watched the live. For the first time in weeks, her eyes softened. She whispered, "Finally. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the beginning of it." When the stream ended, Marcus sat in silence. Outside, the city buzzed with the noise of headlines shifting direction. Inside, he exhaled, a small sound of relief. But even as he closed his eyes, his phone lit up again. Another message. Same unknown number. "You think that was the last secret?" His hands trembled. The screen stayed bright in the darkness. And just like that, the next storm started brewing again. "This story is entirely fictional and has no connection to real people or events." The message stayed on Marcus's screen all night. He didn't reply. Sometimes silence is the only way to answer a threat. When morning came, the house looked different, light falling through half-closed blinds, dust moving like tired ghosts. He made coffee and watched the steam rise, wondering when simple things had started to feel like luxuries. By noon, the world had already shifted again. Gossip pages lost interest. Moving on to the next headline, Raiden posted a short statement denying everything. But no one cared anymore. His name faded from the trending lists as fast as it appeared. Marcus didn't celebrate. He just felt empty, like a storm had passed through and taken the walls with it. He drove to the old park where he used to bring Jordan as a kid. The swings creaked in the wind, the grass untrimmed, the sky gray. He sat on a bench and scrolled through his messages until he found one from Yara. It was short. "Come home. We need to talk." When he walked in, she was standing by the window, arms crossed but eyes calm. "I saw your live," she said. He nodded. "I didn't do it for the crowd." "I know," she said. "That's why I watched the whole thing." They sat at the table that had carried too many arguments. This time, no shouting, no sharp words. Just the quiet truth between two people who had run out of ways to hide. "You were right," Marcus said. "I rescue everyone but the people closest to me. And I was wrong, too," Yara replied. "I thought leaving would protect me from the pain. It just followed me somewhere else." They talked for hours about the lies, the noise, the weight of being watched, about Jordan, who had seen too much too soon. And when words ran out, they just sat there. Letting silence do the healing words couldn't. That evening, Jordan came home. He stopped in the doorway, uncertain. Marcus stood first. "You hungry?" he asked. Jordan nodded. 3 plates on the table. Simple food, no performance. Halfway through, Jordan said, "So it's really over." Marcus smiled faintly. "No story ever really ends. It just stops needing to be told." Yara reached across and touched both their hands. It wasn't forgiveness, it was recognition. The kind that comes when everyone finally admits they're human. After dinner, Jordan went upstairs. Yara cleared the dishes. Marcus stepped outside, breathing in the cool air. The city hummed, alive and indifferent. His phone buzzed once more, one final notification. He looked down. Account suspended. The anonymous sender was gone. He slipped the phone into his pocket and looked up at the sky. Clouds moved slow, heavy but harmless. For the first time in months, there was no noise, no cameras, no leaks, no arguments echoing through screens. Just the sound of his own heartbeat catching up with peace. Inside, Yara opened a window, letting fresh air in. Jordan's laughter drifted down from upstairs, faint but real. Marcus closed his eyes and whispered, "Enough." And somewhere in the quiet that followed, it finally was. So when everyone thought the story had finally settled, when the noise had died down and people were just beginning to move on, Mendeecees chose that exact moment to speak. For weeks he had stayed silent. No interviews, no statements, no reaction. But silence only makes rumors louder, and soon the whispers became headlines. Until one night, out of nowhere, Mendeecees went live. The screen lit up with his face. Calm, steady, but tired. The comments were flying faster than he could read them. And then he said, "I know what's being said. I know what's being shown. But before you judge me, understand this: no one's life fits inside a clip or a quote." That one line broke the internet. Some fans called it damage control. Others said it sounded like truth finally breaking through the walls. But as he kept talking, the tone changed. It wasn't anger anymore. It was regret. He admitted there had been someone, not a long affair, not a double life, just a connection that should never have crossed the line. He didn't name names. He didn't hide behind excuses. He said, "I made choices that hurt people I love, that's on me. But my son, he didn't deserve to be the one carrying it." The chat slowed. Even people who came to drag him went quiet. For a second, it didn't feel like a scandal anymore. It felt human. A father standing in the wreckage of his own decisions, trying to find the words to fix what was left. And that's when it hit everyone watching. This wasn't about fame, or gossip, or trending topics. It was about legacy, what we hand down when our truths clash with our pride. Mendeecees looked right into the camera and said, "You tell your kids to be honest, and then life tests your own honesty. I told mine to speak truth, and he did. I can't be mad at that." That moment went viral within minutes. Hashtag Mendeecees filled every timeline. Comment sections turned into therapy rooms. People wrote about their own fathers, about forgiveness, about the kind of love that hurts but still refuses to die. And then, quietly, Yandy appeared in the comments of that same live. No grand statement, no drama, just 3 words. "Healing starts here." Those 3 words stopped everyone cold. Fans cried. Blogs exploded. Some said it meant they were reconciling. Others said it was just grace. But for the first time in weeks, the air felt lighter. It felt like maybe, somehow, peace was possible again. The next morning, a single photo surfaced. Mendeecees and his son, sitting together at a cafe. In New Jersey. No cameras, no entourage, just 2 men, 1 conversation. Eyewitnesses said they talked for hours, sometimes laughing, sometimes silent. And before they left, they hugged. That picture said more than any statement ever could. It was no longer a scandal, it was healing in motion. Still, every story has its cost. Endorsements were paused, appearances cancelled, a few doors quietly closed. But this time, Mendeecees didn't hide. He leaned into the discomfort. He said, "You can't rebuild your name until you stop running from the reasons it fell apart." And while some people still rolled their eyes, more and more fans started to see a man trying to grow. Influencers made videos saying, "This isn't gossip anymore. This is what accountability looks like." Meanwhile, Yandy carried herself with quiet strength. No online shade, no public tears, just movement. In a leaked behind-the-scenes clip from set, she told a producer, "People think love means perfection. It doesn't. Love means showing up, even when the world's watching you break." That line hit home for millions. It became a movement. Hashtag #ShowUpLove. Couples, families, even fans began using it as a reminder that love isn't about the absence of mistakes, but the courage to stay. A few weeks later, Mendeecees released a short video titled "What Healing Looks Like." It wasn't polished or dramatic, just him sitting in his living room, talking straight to camera. He said he'd spent years proving people wrong instead of proving himself right. He said he finally understood that peace doesn't come from being liked, it comes from being real. Comments poured in thousands, thanking him for honesty, for vulnerability, for finally speaking like a man who wasn't hiding behind fame. Even critics admitted it felt different, raw, unfiltered. And maybe that's the real story here, that even after the chaos, even after the pain, redemption still has a seat at the table. That what defines you isn't the scandal, it's the choice you make when the noise dies down, and all that's left is your reflection. He ended the video saying, "Family isn't about being flawless. It's about facing the truth together." People stayed on the live long after it ended. No music, no outro, just silence. A kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, it feels earned. So wherever you're watching from, if you've ever had to rebuild your name, if you've ever said sorry and meant it, if you've ever had the courage to face your own mistakes, this story is yours too. Because redemption doesn't trend, it transforms. Mendeecees spoke. He stumbled, but he stood. And sometimes, that's enough to start again. So until the next chapter unfolds, hold on to that reminder. Mistakes don't end you. They teach you. They strip you down until all that's left is truth. And when that truth finally speaks, like Mendeecees did, the whole world listens, because honesty, no matter how late it arrives, still has the power to heal. When the live ended that night, the internet didn't sleep. Hashtags kept spinning, clips kept resurfacing, and comment sections turned into confession. Everyone had something to say, some defending Mendeecees for owning up to his mistakes, others calling it too little too late. But what nobody could deny was that, for the first time, he spoke from a place that felt real. And while the world kept dissecting every second of that video, inside the Harris household, silence had its own language. The energy was different. There was no shouting, no slammed doors, no cold shoulders, just quiet. That kind of quiet that comes after a storm, when everyone's too tired to fight, but too awake to rest. Mendeecees sat at the kitchen counter the next morning, still scrolling through thousands of comments. Some made him smile, others cut deep. He saw strangers offering forgiveness, fans calling him brave, and a few, still unforgiving, typing out words that burned. He sighed, locked his phone, and whispered, "Maybe this is what growth feels like." Messy Yandy walked in, her eyes heavy from nights of little sleep. No words, no drama. She poured coffee, took a seat across from him, and for a while, they just sat there to people trying to remember what peace used to sound like. Finally, she said quietly, "You did what you had to do." Mendeecees looked up, unsure if that was support or surrender. "I just didn't want our son to carry the weight of my silence," he said. Yandy nodded slowly. "He didn't deserve it. None of us did. But I'll give you this. You faced it. Not everyone does." That was the first honest conversation they'd had in months. No cameras, no producers, no pressure to perform. Just truth, unfiltered and raw. Word started spreading fast that filming for Love and Hip Hop had been delayed. Producers were scrambling to decide whether to keep this story going or give the family space. But drama sells, and networks know redemption arcs bring ratings. By midweek, paparazzi caught Mendeecees walking into a family therapist's office. Alone, that photo made waves. Because people didn't expect him to take that step. The caption under most reposts read, "Maybe he's serious this time." Inside that session, he finally talked about something he'd buried for years, the fear of not being enough. He said, "Every mistake I made came from trying to prove I'm worthy. I didn't even realize I already was." The therapist told him something that stuck. "You don't rebuild trust with words, you rebuild it with time." And time was exactly what the family needed. But time, in their world, didn't move slowly, it moved online. Clips from his live resurfaced on podcasts. Commentators debated whether he was truly remorseful or just playing the PR game. One host said, "I've seen a lot of fake apologies in this business, but this one felt different. That man looked broken." Another replied, "Yeah, but broken doesn't mean changed." The back and forth kept the topic alive for weeks. Meanwhile, Yandy stayed quiet, and that silence made fans even more curious. Every post she made, even something as simple as a quote about growth, got thousands of comments asking, "Are you okay? Did you forgive him? Will you stay?" Eventually, she decided it was time to speak, but not in the way everyone expected. She didn't go live. She didn't do a Red Table style interview. Instead, she wrote a long caption on Instagram, paired with a single picture of her hand on her son's shoulder. The caption began, "When you've been strong for too long, the hardest part is remembering you're allowed to rest." She wrote about pain, about grace, about how forgiveness isn't weakness, it's a form of freedom. She said she wasn't excusing anything, but she was choosing peace, for herself and her kids. Within an hour, her post hit 1 million likes. Even people who weren't fans reposted it. That's when it became bigger than gossip. It became a conversation about family, forgiveness, and faith. Behind the scenes though, Mendeecees was still wrestling with guilt. He spent more time at home, trying to reconnect with the kids, cooking dinner, helping with homework, but sometimes, the smallest things would remind them of what happened: a reporter waiting outside the gate, a fan whispering in a grocery store, a question from his youngest asking, "Daddy, are you still in trouble?" He'd smile, hold his son close, and say, "No, son, I'm fixing it," but deep down, he wasn't sure he believed it yet. One night, Yandy found him sitting alone in the living room, staring at an old photo, the two of them on vacation years ago. Before everything got complicated, she sat beside him and said, "You can't undo the past, but you can start acting like you learned from it." That line hit him harder than any headline ever could. The next day, he called his manager and said, "Cancel everything for the next month. I need to be home." It shocked everyone. He turned down appearances, interviews, even a reality reunion taping. The network wasn't happy, but for once, he didn't care. Instead, he started recording his own private video diary, not for publicity, not for sympathy, just for himself. In one entry, he said, "If you ever lose yourself trying to please the world, remember, the world won't save you when you fall." Weeks passed. Slowly, quietly, the family found rhythm again, not perfect, but peaceful, until one morning, a new headline dropped and everything they'd worked for was at risk again. A gossip site claimed to have exclusive messages from the alleged affair. Screenshots, dates, conversations. The post went viral instantly, dragging everything back into chaos. Mendeecees' phone blew up within minutes. Producers called, publicists called, even his son texted, asking if it was true. He didn't answer right away. He just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling that familiar knot in his stomach, the one that comes when you realize your second chance might be slipping away. But this time, instead of hiding, he called Yandi. She answered on the first ring. "Did you see it?" he asked. "I did," she said. A long pause followed. "Is it true?" she finally asked. He took a breath. "No, that's old. Twisted. They're using messages from before I came clean." Another pause. "Then prove it," she said softly. "Not to them, to me." And just like that, the line went quiet again. Within hours, the story was everywhere. Podcasts were dissecting the screenshots. YouTubers were making reaction videos. Fans were demanding receipts. It was chaos all over again. But something was different this time. Mendeecees didn't lash out. He didn't post angry rants or call anyone out. He simply posted one sentence on his story. "If you believe in growth, let the past stay in the past." It was short, but it said everything. Still, the internet doesn't rest. The story dragged for days until one woman, the same woman from the original rumors, finally spoke. She confirmed the messages were old. She said, "We both moved on. Let that man live his life." And just like that, the storm began to fade. Fans flooded Yandi's comments again, telling her she was strong, graceful, and the definition of forgiveness. She never replied to any of it. Instead, she posted a single word: peace. The message was clear. She was done fighting for explanations. She was choosing serenity over spectacle. As weeks passed, Mendeecees started rebuilding his public image differently. No big PR campaigns. No reality drama. He started mentoring young men, giving talks about accountability, fatherhood, and the cost of pride. Clips from those talks went viral for a different reason, not for drama, but for wisdom. People began saying, "Maybe this is the version of him we were supposed to see all along." Meanwhile, the family slowly returned to filming. Producers promised to handle their storyline with more respect this time. No forced drama, just truth. When the cameras rolled again, you could feel the difference. Mendeecees wasn't playing a role. Yandi wasn't performing. It was real, and fans noticed. The season premiere opened with a simple scene: Mendeecees walking into the studio, hugging his son, and saying, "Let's start over." No flashy music, no tension. Just two generations breaking a cycle. The episode broke streaming records that night. Social media was full of comments like, "This is what real healing looks like," and finally, reality TV showing reality. And for once, the Harris family wasn't just trending for their pain, they were trending for their progress. By the time the credits rolled, the audience wasn't asking who cheated, who lied, or who left. They were asking something deeper. What does forgiveness look like when love still lingers? And maybe that's what this entire journey was always about. Not perfection, not image, but transformation. Because sometimes, growth doesn't happen in private. Sometimes, the world has to watch you break so they can see how you rebuild. And Mendeecees, the man the internet once dragged through the dirt, became a living reminder that redemption is never out of reach, even when it's messy, even when it's public, even when it hurts. He once said, "You can't control what people think of you, but you can control what you do next." And he did. Now, when he walks into rooms, people don't just see controversy, they see change. He learned that true strength isn't about being flawless. It's about facing your flaws head-on, and deciding that your story isn't over yet. And maybe that's the message for anyone listening right now. Mistakes don't end you. Silence doesn't save you. Truth, no matter how heavy, sets you free. So as his chapter closes, one truth remains: forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about refusing to let it define who you become. And in that way, Mendeecees didn't just speak out. He stood up. And when he did, the whole world finally understood. This wasn't just scandal. This was survival. This was growth in real time. And that's a story worth telling. And just when everyone thought the storm had finally passed, another wave began to rise. Because silence never really stays silent in this world, not when cameras, fans, and hidden agendas are still running. Mendeecees had spoken his truth, but the world wasn't done listening or judging. Every word he said became a headline, every pause turned into a theory. The internet was wild again, dissecting every frame, every glance, every message that came out after that confession. People started revisiting old interviews, clips from Love and Hip Hop, New York, moments that now felt different in hindsight. Fans noticed how Yandi used to go quiet in certain scenes when his past was mentioned, how she'd force a smile when others teased Mendeecees about old flames. Suddenly, everything made sense. What once looked like reality TV drama now looked like real pain, hidden behind production lights. Yandi herself went silent for a few days. No posts, no statements, no captions, just silence. And in a world that lives on reactions, that silence was louder than any response. People flooded her old posts, commenting, "We stand with you, you deserve better. Say something, sis." But she didn't. Not yet. Because when the truth breaks in public, healing has to start in private. Meanwhile, Mendeecees was trying to clean up the mess that decades of fame and secrecy had built. Behind the cameras, he wasn't the calm, composed man people saw. He was restless, pacing through the house, checking his phone every few seconds. Replaying that moment when his own son spoke the words that shattered the image he'd worked so hard to build. His son, Lil Mendeecees, had told the truth not to destroy him, but because he was tired of holding secrets that didn't belong to him. And that's what hurt the most. It wasn't betrayal. It was honesty, the kind Mendeecees wasn't ready to face. Yandi finally broke her silence. But not with a statement or a sit-down interview. It was an Instagram live, short, raw, and real. The camera shook slightly. You could hear the deep breath before she spoke. "I don't owe nobody an explanation," she began softly. "But I owe myself peace. And peace don't live where lies do." That one line exploded across social media. Within minutes, "Peace don't live where lies do" was trending. People made edits, memes, merch, but under all the viral noise, there was heartbreak. Because fans could feel it, this wasn't just reality TV anymore. This was a woman processing public pain in real time. She didn't name names. She didn't point fingers. She didn't even mention Mendeecees directly. But the subtext was clear. Her eyes said what her words didn't. Disappointment, exhaustion, love that's still there but scarred beyond recognition. You could almost feel her soul exhale through the screen. Mendeecees saw that live too. He didn't comment. He didn't call her right away. He just watched twice, 3 times, 10 times, until the replay disappeared. He knew this wasn't about damage control anymore. This was about rebuilding trust. And trust doesn't come with a PR plan. It comes with silence, humility, and time. 3 things fame never gives you enough of. Days passed. The blogs moved on, as they always do, chasing the next scandal, but the fans didn't. They were still divided. Some said Yandi should leave for good, start over. Others said Mendeecees deserved grace, that he was trying, that love should be bigger than mistakes. But the real truth, no one outside that house could ever understand what it takes to love someone after the whole world has watched them break your heart. Behind the scenes, Yandi was writing, not posts, not captions, but pages. Journals filled with questions, reflections, prayers. She'd been through public chaos before, but this one felt different. This wasn't about TV ratings. This was about legacy, about what kind of example she was setting for her kids, her followers, and herself. And as she wrote, she realized something. Pain doesn't end you. It refines you. It teaches you how to start again, even when your heart's still trembling. Weeks later, they met. No cameras, no crew, no producers. Just 2 people in a quiet room trying to find peace in the ashes of something that once felt perfect. The first few minutes were silent. You could hear the clock ticking, like time itself was waiting for them to speak. Then Mendeecees broke the silence. "I didn't mean for it to go this way," he said softly. "I thought I was protecting you." Yandi looked at him, tears welling but steady. "You can't protect someone with lies," she replied. "You protect them by standing beside them, in truth, no matter how ugly it is." And right there, something shifted. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't closure, but it was the first real conversation they'd had in months. The kind where words carry weight, where silence means something, where love isn't loud, it's patient. That night didn't fix everything. But it started something, a crack in the wall where light could finally get in. Mendeecees walked out of that room, not as a man trying to prove he was perfect, but as one finally ready to be honest about his imperfections. And that's what people don't always see. Behind every headline is a human trying to rebuild what fame has torn apart. Still, the internet had questions. Who was the woman? When did it happen? Was it during Yandi's hardest years, when she was holding down the house while he was away? The blogs speculated. The fans theorized. But Mendeecees refused to answer. Not because he was hiding anymore, but because he realized some truths belong only to the people who lived them. But deep down, Yandi already knew the answers. That's the thing about intuition, it speaks before the evidence does. And though her heart was bruised, it wasn't broken, because Yandi had something stronger than scandal. She had purpose, a career, a family, a voice that inspired thousands of women to rise above pain, not drown in it, and that's where her strength became her story. She didn't retaliate, she didn't expose, she rose quietly, gracefully, and with power that didn't need a microphone, because sometimes, the loudest revenge is peace. Still, even as she moved forward, the world kept watching. Every photo, every quote, every song lyric she posted was dissected for clues. People wanted to know, were they still together? Was this the end or a new beginning? And maybe that's the thing. Not every chapter needs to end with an answer. Some just need to end with growth. But Mendeecees wasn't done speaking. A few weeks later, he appeared on a podcast, his first public interview since the whole ordeal. The host asked him straight up, if you could say one thing to Yandi right now, what would it be? He paused, took a deep breath, and said, "Thank you, for not walking away when you had every reason to. For loving me enough to let me learn. I don't deserve it, but I'm trying to earn it." That clip went viral. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. Raw. You could hear the sincerity in his voice. Maybe for the first time, people saw a man not defending his image, but confronting his reflection. And that's what makes a story like this hit different. It's not about scandal. It's about the slow, painful climb back to truth. And as the camera faded, fans were left wondering, could love really survive this? Could trust be rebuilt after such public betrayal? Maybe, maybe not, but one thing was certain, both Yandi and Mendeecees had changed. Not for the cameras. Not for the fans. But for themselves. Because in the end, growth isn't about proving who's right. It's about becoming whole again, even when the world saw you break. But growth never comes without noise. Because while Mendeecees and Yandi were finally starting to rebuild quietly, the internet wasn't ready to let them breathe. Every blog wanted exclusives. Every fan page had inside sources. Screenshots, voice notes, and old DMs began to resurface, half true, half twisted. People weren't just talking about what happened. They were inventing new chapters that never existed. One morning Yandi woke up to see her name trending again, not because of a project. Not because of her activism, but because someone claimed to have proof that the affair went deeper than anyone thought. It wasn't even true, but once a rumor hits the timeline, it takes on a life of its own. The credits rolled. The audience wasn't asking who cheated, who lied, or who left. They were asking something deeper. What does forgiveness look like when love still lingers? And maybe that's what this entire journey was always about. Not perfection, not image, but transformation. Because sometimes, growth doesn't happen in private. Sometimes, the world has to watch you break so they can see how you rebuild. And Mendeecees, the man the internet once dragged through the dirt, became a living reminder that redemption is never out of reach, even when it's messy, even when it's public, even when it hurts. He once said, "You can't control what people think of you, but you can control what you do next," and he did. Now, when he walks into rooms, people don't just see controversy, they see change. He learned that true strength isn't about being flawless. It's about facing your flaws head-on, and deciding that your story isn't over yet. And maybe that's the message for anyone listening right now. Mistakes don't end you. Silence doesn't save you. Truth, no matter how heavy, sets you free. So as his chapter closes, one truth remains: forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about refusing to let it define who you become. And in that way, Mendeecees didn't just speak out. He stood up. And when he did, the whole world finally understood, this wasn't just scandal. This was survival. This was growth in real time. And that's a story worth telling. And just when everyone thought the storm had finally passed, another wave began to rise. Because silence never really stays silent in this world, not when cameras, fans, and hidden agendas are still running. Mendeecees had spoken his truth, but the world wasn't done listening. Or judging. Every word he said became a headline. Every pause turned into a theory. The internet was wild again, dissecting every frame, every glance, every message that came out after that confession. People started revisiting old interviews, clips from Love and Hip Hop, New York, moments that now felt different in hindsight. Fans noticed how Yandi used to go quiet in certain scenes when his past was mentioned, how she'd force a smile when others teased Mendeecees about old flames. Suddenly, everything made sense. What once looked like reality TV drama now looked like real pain, hidden behind production lights. Yandi herself went silent for a few days. No posts, no statements, no captions, just silence. And in a world that lives on reactions, that silence was louder than any response. People flooded her old posts, commenting, "We stand with you, you deserve better. Say something, sis," but she didn't. Not yet. Because when the truth breaks in public, healing has to start in private. Meanwhile, Mendeecees was trying to clean up the mess that decades of fame and secrecy had built. Behind the cameras, he wasn't the calm, composed man people saw. He was restless, pacing through the house, checking his phone every few seconds. Replaying that moment when his own son spoke the words that shattered the image he'd worked so hard to build. His son, Lil Mendeecees, had told the truth not to destroy him, but because he was tired of holding secrets that didn't belong to him, and that's what hurt the most. It wasn't betrayal. It was honesty, the kind Mendeecees wasn't ready to face. Yandi finally broke her silence. But not with a statement or a sit-down interview. It was an Instagram live, short, raw, and real. The camera shook slightly. You could hear the deep breath before she spoke. "I don't owe nobody an explanation," she began softly. "But I owe myself peace. And peace don't live where lies do." That one line exploded across social media. Within minutes, "Peace don't live where lies do" was trending. People made edits, memes, merch, but under all the viral noise, there was heartbreak. Because fans could feel it. This wasn't just reality TV anymore. This was a woman processing public pain in real time. She didn't name names. She didn't point fingers. She didn't even mention Mendeecees directly. But the subtext was clear. Her eyes said what her words didn't. Disappointment, exhaustion, love that's still there but scarred beyond recognition. You could almost feel her soul exhale through the screen. Mendeecees saw that live too. He didn't comment. He didn't call her right away. He just watched twice. 3 times, 10 times, until the replay disappeared. He knew this wasn't about damage control anymore. This was about rebuilding trust. And trust doesn't come with a PR plan. It comes with silence, humility, and time. 3 things fame never gives you enough of. Days passed. The blogs moved on, as they always do, chasing the next scandal, but the fans didn't. They were still divided. Some said Yandi should leave for good, start over. Others said Mendeecees deserved grace, that he was trying, that love should be bigger than mistakes. But the real truth, no one outside that house could ever understand what it takes to love someone after the whole world has watched them break your heart. Behind the scenes, Yandi was writing, not posts, not captions, but pages. Journals filled with questions, reflections, prayers. She'd been through public chaos before, but this one felt different. This wasn't about TV ratings. This was about legacy, about what kind of example she was setting for her kids, her followers, and herself. And as she wrote, she realized something. Pain doesn't end you. It refines you. It teaches you how to start again, even when your heart's still trembling. Weeks later, they met. No cameras, no crew, no producers. Just 2 people in a quiet room trying to find peace in the ashes of something that once felt perfect. The first few minutes were silent. You could hear the clock ticking, like time itself was waiting for them to speak. Then Mendeecees broke the silence. "I didn't mean for it to go this way," he said softly. "I thought I was protecting you." Yandi looked at him, tears welling but steady. "You can't protect someone with lies," she replied. "You protect them by standing beside them, in truth, no matter how ugly it is." And right there, something shifted. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't closure, but it was the first real conversation they'd had in months. The kind where words carry weight, where silence means something, where love isn't loud, it's patient. That night didn't fix everything. But it started something, a crack in the wall where light could finally get in. Mendeecees walked out of that room, not as a man trying to prove he was perfect, but as one finally ready to be honest about his imperfections. And that's what people don't always see. Behind every headline is a human trying to rebuild what fame has torn apart. Still, the internet had questions. Who was the woman? When did it happen? Was it during Yandi's hardest years, when she was holding down the house while he was away? The blogs speculated. The fans theorized. But Mendeecees refused to answer. Not because he was hiding anymore, but because he realized some truths belong only to the people who lived them. But deep down, Yandi already knew the answers. That's the thing about intuition, it speaks before the evidence does. And though her heart was bruised, it wasn't broken, because Yandi had something stronger than scandal. She had purpose, a career, a family, a voice that inspired thousands of women to rise above pain, not drown in it. And that's where her strength became her story. She didn't retaliate, she didn't expose, she rose quietly, gracefully, and with power that didn't need a microphone. Because sometimes, the loudest revenge is peace. Still, even as she moved forward, the world kept watching. Every photo, every quote, every song lyric she posted was dissected for clues. People wanted to know, were they still together? Was this the end or a new beginning? And maybe that's the thing. Not every chapter needs to end with an answer. Some just need to end with growth. But Mendeecees wasn't done speaking. A few weeks later, he appeared on a podcast, his first public interview since the whole ordeal. The host asked him straight up, if you could say one thing to Yandi right now, what would it be? He paused, took a deep breath, and said, thank you, for not walking away when you had every reason to. For loving me enough to let me learn. I don't deserve it, but I'm trying to earn it. That clip went viral. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. Raw. You could hear the sincerity in his voice. Maybe for the first time, people saw a man not defending his image, but confronting his reflection. And that's what makes a story like this hit different. It's not about scandal. It's about the slow, painful climb back to truth. And as the camera faded, fans were left wondering, could love really survive this? Could trust be rebuilt after such public betrayal? Maybe, maybe not, but one thing was certain, both Yandi and Mendeecees had changed. Not for the cameras. Not for the fans. But for themselves. Because in the end, growth isn't about proving who's right. It's about becoming whole again, even when the world saw you break. But growth never comes without noise. Because while Mendeecees and Yandi were finally starting to rebuild quietly, the internet wasn't ready to let them breathe. Every blog wanted exclusives. Every fan page had inside sources. Screenshots, voice notes, and old DMs began to resurface. Half true, half twisted. People weren't just talking about what happened. They were inventing new chapters that never existed. One morning Yandi woke up to see her name trending again, not because of a project. Not because of her activism, but because someone claimed to have proof that the affair went deeper than anyone thought. It wasn't even true. But once a rumor hits the timeline, it takes on a life of its own. She sighed, looked at her phone, then set it face down. She'd learned something through all this. Not every fight deserves a response. Some storms are meant to pass on their own. Mendeecees saw the trend too. His first instinct was to go live, clear it all up, defend Yandi. But then he stopped himself. He realized she didn't need saving, she needed space. So instead of reacting online, he called her privately. No cameras, no posts, no statements. Just a text that said, I see what's going on. I'm here if you want me to be. And that small gesture, that quiet support, meant more than 1,000 public apologies ever could. Weeks passed, and little by little, things began to change. Yandi started showing up again, not just online, but in life. She went back to her projects, her foundation, her work with young women. Every time she stepped into a room, you could feel the difference. She wasn't walking with hurt anymore. She was walking with purpose. That's the thing about pain. Once you survive it, you start moving differently. You start recognizing what's real, and you stop entertaining what's not. Mendeecees began doing the same. He started mentoring young men, speaking at schools about responsibility, about choices, about truth. In every story he told, you could hear the echoes of his own lessons, the mistakes he'd made, the bridges he'd almost burned, and the woman who still stood by him when the smoke cleared. And every time he spoke, he wasn't trying to sound perfect. He was trying to sound honest, because honesty had become his only redemption. But the world wasn't done testing them yet. One night, during a reunion special taping, a producer hinted that the topic might come up again on camera this time. Yandi wasn't sure she was ready. The idea of reliving everything for an audience felt exhausting. But she also knew that hiding wasn't peace, it was just another kind of silence. So when the cameras started rolling, and the question finally came, she didn't flinch. She looked straight ahead and said, "We've already lived through it once. We don't need to reperform it. Growth doesn't need an audience." The room went quiet. You could hear a pin drop. Even the host didn't know how to respond. It wasn't the soundbite they expected, but it was the truth they couldn't deny. And when that episode aired, fans flooded social media with praise. "That's maturity," one comment read. "She's not playing the game anymore." Another said, "This is the Yandi we've been waiting to see." For once, the internet didn't divide, it united, in respect. Behind the scenes, Mendeecees watched that episode from home. He didn't post. He didn't brag. He just smiled, proud. Because he knew that the woman he almost lost had found her voice again, and this time, it was louder than the noise that tried to drown her. Later that night, he called her. Not to talk about the show, not to dig into the past, just to ask how she was. She laughed softly. "I'm good, really good." And in that moment, for the first time in a long time, he believed her. Time moved on. Months turned into seasons. Slowly, people stopped mentioning the scandal and started talking about the comeback. They showed up to events together again, not as a perfect couple, but as two people still learning, still trying, still choosing each other in a world that doesn't make that easy. And maybe that's the real lesson, that love isn't about never falling apart. It's about choosing to rebuild when the whole world saw you break. It's about showing up, even when the script didn't go the way you planned. By the time another year rolled around, their story had changed completely. Yandi launched a new project focused on transparency in relationships and mental health. She called it Open Conversations. It wasn't just a brand. It was her truth. Mendeecees joined her on stage at one of the first events. They didn't rehearse anything. They just spoke raw, real, unrehearsed. "I used to think being a man meant never being questioned," Mendeecees said. "But now I know being a man means answering the hard questions, even when the answers hurt." Yandi nodded. "And being a woman," she added, "means learning to forgive yourself for loving people who were still learning how to love you." The crowd rose in applause, not because it was perfect, but because it was honest. After that night, the narrative shifted for good. They weren't the couple haunted by an affair anymore. They were the couple that showed what healing looks like in real time. They turned pain into purpose, mistakes into lessons, and silence into a platform. Still, every now and then, the past would try to whisper again, a random headline, a resurfaced clip. But it didn't sting anymore. Because when you've told your truth, rumors lose their power. And that's what both of them had learned. You can't control the story others tell about you, but you can control the one you live. And as the camera faded to black, the voiceover came full circle, reminding everyone watching that love, truth, and growth aren't always glamorous. They're messy, they hurt, they take time. But when you face them head-on, they turn you into someone unbreakable. So if you've ever had to rebuild yourself after being misunderstood, if you've ever chosen forgiveness over revenge, if you've ever been brave enough to start again, then maybe you understand what Yandi and Mendeecees were really teaching the world all along. That the loudest redemption story isn't shouted, it's lived. So here's where the story leaves us, not with fireworks or a perfect ending, but with something real, something earned. Mendeecees and Yandi didn't just survive the chaos. They evolved through it. And maybe that's the part people don't see enough of. The quiet strength it takes to keep loving, to keep showing up, when your entire life has been turned into public content. Because what we watched wasn't just celebrity drama, it was a mirror, a reflection of what happens when pride meets pain, when mistakes meet maturity, when love gets tested under the harshest spotlight. Every headline, every rumor, every fan theory, it all boiled down to one question that's bigger than their story. How do you rebuild when the world saw you fall apart? Maybe that's what makes this story hit different. Because deep down, we've all been there, trying to fix something while people are watching. Trying to grow while others are waiting for you to fail. Mendeecees spoke his truth. Yandi found her peace. And somewhere in between, they taught us what accountability and forgiveness really look like when the cameras stop rolling. So now, it's your turn to speak. Your turn to feel. Your turn to decide what this story meant to you. Did you see yourself in Yandi, holding everything together while the world tried to break you? Or did you see yourself in Mendeecees, facing the consequences of choices you can't take back, but choosing to grow anyway? If any part of their journey made you pause, made you think, made you feel, don't let it stop here. Hit that like button. Not just for the algorithm, but for every person who's ever had to fight for their own redemption story. Subscribe if you believe in second chances. Because around here, we don't just tell stories for the gossip, we tell them to remind you that even the broken ones can heal. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what moment hit you hardest. Was it when Yandi finally broke her silence, refusing to perform pain for ratings? Or when Mendeecees said thank you instead of I'm sorry, because he finally understood what love really asks for? Be honest, be real, because your voice keeps this conversation alive. And remember, stories like this don't just live on screens. They live in every relationship that's ever been tested, every heart that's ever had to forgive, every person who's ever had to start again after losing themselves. That's why this channel exists, to turn the noise into something meaningful, to take what's messy and make it matter. So keep watching, keep commenting, keep sharing, because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear that they're not alone in their mistakes, that they can still rise, still rebuild, still be loved again, and maybe that person is you. If you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been talked about instead of understood, if you've ever had to hold your head high while the world questioned your worth, this one's for you. You're not your past. You're not your rumors. You're not what people said when they didn't know your whole story. You're the lesson, the comeback, the next chapter no one saw coming. And as we close this chapter on Mendeecees and Yandi, let's not forget what their story really showed us, that healing isn't about winning the argument, it's about finding peace after the fight. That real love doesn't perform, it perseveres. And that even when the lights go off, the truth still finds its way through the dark. So before you scroll to the next video, take a second to breathe. Think about what truth you've been avoiding, what apology you still owe, what forgiveness you've been holding back, because maybe, just maybe, this story wasn't about them after all. Maybe it was about reminding you that you still have time to rewrite your own. Like the video if you felt that, subscribe if you're ready for the next story, share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. Someone who's still holding on to guilt, anger, or heartbreak. Let this be their sign that growth is still possible, that peace is still waiting, that love still wins, even after the hardest seasons. Because no matter how loud the drama gets, the message stays the same. Truth heals. Honesty matters.